Metal Jesus, and I'm back again with another iOS gaming video. Here's my iPad right here. And speaking of the iPad, I've added a ton of games to it over the last couple months, including one of my top 5 role-playing games of all time. They ported it to the iPad. I actually put over 35 hours into it. It's so good, so much fun. But that's not it. A bunch of other games that I've been playing while on vacation and also while kicking back on the couch. Let's take a look. First up is a game I've been looking forward to ever since it was announced, and that is Deus Ex The Fall.
I'm fine. As good as can be expected.
Are you skipping your meds? I know you're not sleeping. Come on, talk to me.
Now, if you know me, well, you know that I am a rabid, drooling Deus Ex fan all the way back to the PC days. And yes, I even like the second one, and also Human Revolution when it came out just a couple years ago on the Xbox 360. Well, those of you who think that you can't get a full console experience on a touch device like, say, the iPad, this game's gonna surprise you quite a bit.
A friend of mine tried to steal from the gangbangers not too long ago. I haven't heard from him since.
In this mobile version, you get most of the mechanics that you see in the big console versions, like first-person shooting, there's also stealth, there's hiding behind cover, and the levels are really big. There's lots to see and do, there's lots of little nooks and crannies to find. You find credits, you find weapon upgrades, augmentations. It's really impressive that they packed so much into this mobile version. Now, while I enjoyed this game quite a bit, and I actually finished it in about 5 or 7 hours, which is pretty long, not everything was rosy. The control mechanism for this, especially for a game that's so complicated, well, it's not great. It's not perfect, but it's certainly doable. And if you are a Deus Ex fan like me, well, you'll put the time in because, I don't know, I really, really like this game. Redline Rush is a game that frankly just kind of came out of nowhere. I hadn't heard of it before, but man, it is awesome for fans of Burnout and also endless running games like Jetpack Joyride. Now, at first glance, that seems like a pretty odd pairing, but it works surprisingly well. This game is actually a lot of fun, and it has quite a bit of depth. And like most endless running or driving games, this is all about surviving as long as possible. You just want to get the most power-ups, the most multipliers, and last as long as possible so that you can get the highest score. But to keep things interesting, there are missions that you take on, like for instance, maybe you want to pick up 15 of the purple gems, or maybe you want to boost a certain amount of times all within the same run. Now, the reason why I compare it to, say, like one of my favorite racing games, Burnout, is because it really does have the same look and feel of that game, which is a total good thing. I mean, it's an arcade racing game I love to play, and it reminds me of Jetpack Joyride because of the missions, which I mentioned, and also just the level design, the amount of randomness in this game. It's never cheap. It's actually a really well-designed game. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that one of my all-time favorite role-playing games is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And it's kind of amazing, but this game is now out on iPad and it rocks. It's actually probably one of the best versions of this game.
To truly understand the way of the Jedi, you must open your mind to knowledge. Seek wisdom in the teachings of the great masters of our order.
This game is by BioWare, which is the maker of the Mass Effect series, one of my favorites as well, and also Dragon Age and also Baldur's Gate. They have a huge history of doing these big, epic RPGs, and this game fits right in there with all those. A few things about this version is that it seems to run at a pretty solid 60 frames a second. I mean, there is never any slowdown. It just runs really well. Also, it's been slightly modified for touch. So, for instance, if there's a dialogue option and there's a bunch of options, instead of having like a D-pad to kind of scroll through your options, you basically just click a number over on the right-hand side and you just select the option that you want. It actually is really intuitive. Now, the entire epic Star Wars saga is here. I beat the game in probably about 35 hours, but you can really put 50 hours in this game if you do all the side missions. I always, of course, play as a Sith. I love playing these games as the bad guy, and it's so much fun. But you can replay it and get a completely different experience and play it light side. There's a lot of value here if you haven't played it. I highly, highly recommend it. And now for something completely different. You know, it may surprise you, but I actually like solving jigsaw puzzles. I mean, who knew? And at first I was like, I don't know, man. I like doing big jigsaw puzzles, you know, where you clear off a table and you have just a ton of different pieces and stuff falls on the floor and it takes a couple days. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to translate, you know, that well over to the iPad. Well, surprisingly, it does very well. Now, this app comes with a bunch of included puzzles, whether it's pictures of landscapes or maybe it's candy or children or, you know, famous paintings or whatever. But they also will sell you in their app store all these little bundles. So if you finish all the ones that come with the app, well, you can go on there and literally you could spend hundreds of hours playing other downloadable puzzles. But the coolest part is if you already have a photo that you like, let's say it's a family member, or like me, if you just want to take a cool picture of, I don't know, one of your favorite bands, well, you can take a photo with the camera and make a puzzle out of it. It's actually pretty cool. Another nice little feature is that the game allows you to adjust how many pieces you have. So if you're a bit of a noob and you're not used to doing puzzles, well, you can crank that down to just a handful of pieces if you want. Or if you've been doing it for quite a while and you want a bit of a challenge, well, you can ratchet that up to hundreds of pieces. Deep Dungeons of Doom is a dungeon crawler that looks like it would have been released on, let's say, like an old PC running MS-DOS. In this game, you choose your hero, be it a warrior, thief, or wizard, and then you roam the map looking for dungeons to plunder. Combat is handled with you on the left side of the screen and the enemy on the right. If you want to attack your enemy, you simply click the right side of the screen. If you want to block, you click the left. But timing is key because combat happens in real time. For instance, if you tap too early, you might stall out for a second. But if you wait right before an enemy attacks, you might get a little extra damage awarded. It's an interesting dance of, say, watching the enemy animations really close while raising your own stats and looking for chests and exploration. This is the kind of game that I think appeals to a lot of different people. I mean, casual fans can really quickly jump into it and understand the combat, but veterans of this looking for a challenge can really dig in and get into the nuances of the combat and also the leveling up. There's a lot to like here. Scurvy Scallywags was created by Ron Gilbert. Now, does that name sound familiar? Well, old school adventure fans like me will remember Ron as the dude who created the hilarious Maniac Mansion as well as the first two Monkey Island games. Now Ron takes on the common Match 3 puzzle game and comes up with another gem that is both funny and also a fresh take on the genre. Now, the big change to the typical Match 3 gameplay is when you swipe to match objects. Instead of only dropping down from the top, pieces come in from all sides, allowing you to control the movement of the playfield. You play as an actor taking on a pirate role in a low-budget play. You see, your pirate actor is actually on the playfield, as are your opponents. A lot of time is spent leveling up your character to win hand-to-hand battles when you're powerful enough. Also, you can grab loot to upgrade your pirate ship for, say, combat bonuses, and objects that are needed to complete the scene of the play for your audience. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds unusually complex for a Match 3 game, but I gotta tell you, it all works. My wife has put an unusually high amount of time and energy into this game. She absolutely loves it. She's so addicted to it. As a matter of fact, you know, so many people are really addicted to another game called Candy Crush, and we've played that one, but this is the much better game. The Dark Nebula series has been around for quite a while on the App Store, but this is the first time that Episode 1 has been remastered and redesigned in HD for the new iPads. The premise of this game is really simple. You hold your iPad horizontally and then you tilt it while you guide your, I guess it's like a futuristic little marble or something like that, but you're guiding it from one end of the maze to the end. And the beauty of this game is that it works flawlessly. The amount of precise control in this game is actually pretty amazing. And that really makes it because the level design has quite a bit going on for such a simple concept. To get your marble through the maze, you'll need to change colors to open gates, you'll avoid turrets and swinging blades, and you'll even jump from platform to platform, all with perfect precision. Now, if you happen to have played this when it first came out in the standard resolution, well, the developers have added 12 new levels to this to kind of entice people to come back and also give this a shot. And I gotta say, I wasn't disappointed. It's such a fun game and I can always come back to it, time and time again. Sid Meier's Ace Patrol is part of a handful of AAA games that have recently come to the App Store. This is a turn-based strategy game where you take to the skies during World War I and dogfight your way to aerial domination. There are over 120 missions to play through, which will have you leveling up your pilot as you go along. That allows you to get more advanced maneuvers during combat. There are over 30 authentic aircraft to buy and unlock, equipment upgrades, and a lot more. This is a pretty full-featured strategy game. Now, what I think I like best about this is, like a lot of the other games that I tend to praise, this one really feels like it was designed with touch in mind. In other words, there's no virtual stick, there's no sort of, gimmicky thing going on here. It all feels really natural. You pinch and zoom to zoom in or out and make the map bigger or smaller. It's also really easy to twist the map and kind of get your bearings a little bit. And the flight just feels right. There's a bunch of little icons there. It's pretty easy to tell what you should and shouldn't do in the course of a battle. If you like strategy games that are really well made like this one, definitely check it out. Now, there is a little bit of in-app purchases in this game, and so, I think I spent $1 or $2 kind of getting better equipment and stuff like that. But overall, it's cheap and you're gonna have a ton of fun. What do I say about a game like Fall Down? This game is the epitome of just simplistic gameplay that is really addictive. The object of this game is to simply fall down as far as you can, and that sounds easy, but it gets pretty hard pretty quick. One thing that makes the game a bit challenging is that the levels are all completely random. You're never quite sure what you're going to be getting into. Also, if you get stuck or you take too much time falling down, there's this little energy beam that keeps coming from the top, so you'll see it where it starts getting closer and closer, and it'll end your run if you take too long. Thankfully, there are power-ups that you can get that will maybe speed you up, or maybe it will get rid of some of the platforms, or allow you to go in and out of the sides. This really feels like a early Atari 2600 game where it's all about simplicity. The controls here are really tight, thankfully for touch, which is awesome. And I don't know, what do you say about a game this simple? But if you're looking for a really cool time waster, definitely check it out. Spiral Episode 1 is an action role-playing game that is built from the ground up as a touch game that doesn't have any of those silly virtual controls that I hate. And, it looks great too. In this game, you play as a blue-haired badass with a talking robotic arm, and he is trying to unravel the mystery of this deadly virus that is infecting the entire population.
Are you going to at least tell me what's going on? Those things, I've never seen anything like them. You're already too involved as it is.
The game takes place in the future, and it uses the Unreal Engine to great effect. Just look at these environments. Now, combat is fairly complex in this game, with little zone circles around your character to determine whether you do close, medium, or long-range damage. Managing those zones is key to winning fights because almost every battle has you taking on numerous enemies at once. There are also stealth parts to the game, light platforming, and lots of talking to NPCs to kind of further along the story and get information. Overall, it's a pretty fun game that is occasionally brought down by perhaps overly complex controls, but nothing that should prevent you from at least trying it. So that's a quick look at some of the games I've been playing on my iPad and iPhone. But I have a question for you guys. Now that they've successfully ported over Knights of the Republic from the Xbox to the iPad, I'd love to know, what games would you like to see next? If you think about that generation, there's a ton of games on the Xbox that would be really awesome to port over, like Well, I mean, Jade Empire is actually a game I think is more fun than it's given credit. I think it was kind of blasted when it first came out, but I played it a couple times now and it's actually really fun. Also, Knights of the Old Republic 2 would be pretty awesome to have it ported over if they include some of the fan patches and fixes that came out after it was released. So I haven't played it myself, but I've heard that with those patches, that game is suddenly awesome. So it'd be really cool to get that. Also, you know, for Dreamin', it'd be cool if they would also port over some PlayStation 2 games, like maybe the Xenosaga. I don't know, that'd be kind of cool. Maybe some of the Final Fantasies that, you know, like Final Fantasy X, that sort of stuff. It'd be, you know, who knows? I mean, let's dream big, right? As always, I want to thank you for watching my channel and thanks for subscribing. Take care.